My folks uninvite me from Christmas, but when their mortgage payment fails, everything shifts. Abigail stared at her phone, heart racing, as she reread the message from her parents. The small screen seemed to pulse with the energy of her hurt. "We won't be able to accommodate you this year," it said simply. Just those words, like ice cascading down her spine, each letter took a piece of her heart. The festive lights blinked cheerily outside her window, but inside, everything felt suffocating, darkened by betrayal. This was a tradition spanning years. Family gathering. Abigail had always felt safe, like a holly berry nestled in bright green leaves. But now, as the snowflakes swirled outside in a captivating dance, she felt like a ghost drifting through the celebrations without an invitation. Silent tears slipped down her cheeks, mingling with the cold air blowing in from the slightly open window. Was she not good enough? All her life, she tried to gain her parents' approval, but now she felt like an unwanted whisper in their lives. Hot anger swelled within her, a fist clenching around her heart, and crushed against the guilt that threatened to seep through. Days passed. The countdown to Christmas became a heavy weight on her soul. On one particularly dull afternoon, while wandering the decorated streets, Abigail stumbled across an old family friend, Dolores. Dressed in her festive best, Dolores hugged Abigail tightly, her warmth igniting flickers of forgotten joy. But the excitement didn't last long. In a hushed voice, Dolores leaned closer, and with wide eyes, she whispered, "Did you hear about your parents? They missed their mortgage payment. It's serious." Sudden dread clawed its way up Abigail's throat. Had she really just learned her family was on the precipice of losing everything? The enticing garlands, twinkling lights, and laughter surrounding her suddenly felt mocking. A secret crashing down amid the glitter of the season was like an uninvited bear at a picnic. She needed answers, as chills coursed down her spine. Abigail struggled with the fiery thought of her parents maintaining an image while drowning in debt. Were they hiding their failures behind colorful lights and extravagant trees? Who were they trying to impress? Dread turned to anguish as old conversations echoed in her mind. "We always put on a good show," her mother had once said, laughter ringing in her tone, oblivious to the weight of her words. This Christmas, her heart ached not only for herself, but for the love that felt distanced, almost unreachable. But now, there lay an impossible question in front of her. Should she help her parents, or protect herself from their choices? Emotions spiraled like a winter storm, each thought colliding with another. As she stood there, watching families shop for gifts, a decision began to bloom. Either she put aside her pain and extend a hand, or let anger dictate her path. Either way, that decision would reshape everything she believed about loyalty, love, and home. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I have to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube canceled their subscriptions without warning. Just check out the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're there, leave that like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching the channel from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Abigail stood there, wrapped in her thoughts, grappling with her decision. All around her, decorations glimmered, but she felt like a shadow, dimmed by uncertainty. Would extending her hand bring them closer, or tear her apart even more? Just as those thoughts spiraled, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She fished it out, heart racing, and her hands trembled as she saw a new message. This one from her mother. Need to see you. Urgent. Abigail's chest tightened. What could be so urgent? Just a few words, yet they felt like a sledgehammer, breaking apart the fragile walls she'd built around her emotions. She turned and made her way back home, each step heavy with dread. When she entered, the house felt cold, devoid of life, like a forgotten winter garden. "Mama? Papa?" she called out, her voice echoing eerily. No reply. The silence wrapped around her, and the festive lights flickered, as if mirroring her unease. She walked down the hallway, feeling the weight of the walls closing in on her. Then she noticed the door to the basement slightly ajar. A sliver of light peeked through. Curiosity and fear tangled in her chest as she stepped closer. "What's going on?" she muttered to herself. She pushed the door open. Descending the creaky stairs, Abigail's heartbeat surged louder than ever. The air grew cooler, thicker with something unnameable. At the bottom, she turned on the light, and the dull glow illuminated a scene that shattered her reality. There, sitting in a circle, were her parents and an older man she recognized, a childhood friend of the family, Tomas. The sight of their somber faces sent chills racing down her spine. "Let's get this straight," Abigail heard her father say, his voice low and strained. "We're out of time. If we don't figure out how to pay back the money we owe—" Her heart stopped. Money? Oh? This was about more than this. Just a missed mortgage payment. Abigail felt a lump rise in her throat, choking her. "What they'll do to us!" Her mother's voice faltered, eyes glistening. "It's not just the house. They'll ruin everything." As if sensing her presence, they all turned to her. The atmosphere shifted from despair to shock. "Abigail!" her mother gasped, eyes wide in horror. "You weren't supposed to." But before they could explain, Tomas spoke. His voice was firm, yet pained. "They didn't want you to know, Abigail, but this has gone deeper than anyone realized. It's not just the mortgage, it's illegal gambling. Your father owes money to the wrong people. Dangerous people." Everything felt like it was spiraling. A whirlwind of confusion set in. She staggered back, as if struck by lightning. "What?" The word tore from her lips, a jagged cry that echoed against the cold concrete walls. You're involved in that?" Her parents exchanged a glance, horrified and ashamed, and for a second she thought they might crumble under the weight of her gaze. Her mind raced, dredging up all those moments she'd believed in their perfect world. All the family dinners and laughter, every holiday filled with joy. All illusions shattered in an instant. "Abigail, please understand. It was supposed to be temporary," her father pleaded, desperation lacing his voice. "We thought we could win back what we lost. We didn't mean for any of this to happen." The chaotic confusion spun out of control inside her. All those years, chasing their approval, felt foolish now. And anger flared hotter than the winter chill. She felt many things, but trust had vanished, swept away like footprints in the snow. "What are we going to do now?" Abigail's voice strained, fear creeping in with every word. Would she protect the family she once adored, or sever ties to save herself? The stakes were higher than ever, and as she stood there, the weight of the truth crashing down like an avalanche, she realized her world would never be the same again. Abigail's world spun on its axis, each revelation cracking her heart like ice in the warmth of the sun. Illegal gambling? The words tasted bitter on her tongue, her vision blurring as she struggled to digest the weight of it all. "You put us in danger?" All for what? Money? Her father's face paled, the once strong lines now drawn tight with fear. We thought we could handle it, Mia. We never meant for it to spiral out of control, he said, the desperation clear. We just wanted to secure the future. And look where we are. Abigail's voice echoed off the concrete walls, anger and betrayal tightening her chest. Now you're bringing me into this mess? Abigail, wait! Her mother reached out, the shimmer of tears in her eyes reflecting the dim light. But before Abigail could hear more, her phone buzzed again, the sharp noise slicing through the tension, startling all of them. She glanced down and felt her heart drop. It was a message from an unknown number, followed by a single unmistakable word: tonight. Abruptly, the door creaked open, casting a shadow into the basement that felt cold against her skin. They all turned to see who it was. The line between fear and confusion drawn sharp and clear. A dark figure stepped into the light, a man dressed in an expensive coat, features obscured by a thick scarf. Abigail's pulse raced. Who are you? The question slipped from her lips, panic threading through her veins. He pulled down the scarf, revealing a smirk that sent shivers down her spine. I think you already know, he said, his voice smooth yet laced with threat. I'm here for what's owed. You can't hide forever. What do you mean? Her father stammered, his eyes wide in terror. A chilling laugh escaped the man's lips. Your father thought he could pull off some risky plays and rise above the stakes. But here we are now. He stepped closer, menacingly. And let me remind you, failure to pay has consequences. Tension thickened the air. Abigail felt everything shift again, her world tilting. Tell me the truth, she demanded, her voice a quiver of fear. What's really going on? In that oppressive silence, something unforeseen shattered the atmosphere. A figure rushed down the stairs, colliding with the man. Let her go! Get away from my family! It was her brother, Marco, bursting into the scene out of nowhere, eyes blazing with defiance. The man's smirk faltered, and before anyone could react, Marco lunged forward, throwing a wild punch. The unexpected blow caught the man off guard, sending him staggering back into the wall. Marco, stop! Abigail screamed, caught between shock and instinct. But it was too late. In the chaos, the basement door slammed shut, locking them all inside as the man regained his footing. The expression on his face shifted from surprise to fury, revealing a glint of something dangerous in his eyes. You made a big mistake, kid, he hissed, brushing himself off. Suddenly, an overwhelming sense of dread settled around them. Abigail's heart raced as she processed the madness unfolding. What did you get yourself into, Marco? She whispered, grasping for answers. But it was Marco who turned pale, his bravado fading as he stumbled back, a sheen of sweat coating his brow. I didn't mean to, he choked out, his voice breaking. I just wanted to protect you. A cascade of realizations hit Abigail like a wave. Protect us from what? Just then, the man's expression darkened, eyes narrowing. As he pulled something gleaming from his coat, the sight of it sent a fresh wave of panic through the room. Hope twisted into dread as unknown possibilities loomed in the air. What had she missed? What were the real stakes here? As the pieces of her family began to crack, Abigail's world spiraled deeper into chaos, leaving her with more questions than answers. What were they hiding? And how deep did this betrayal go? The man's stance shifted ever so slightly, a tilt of arrogance mixed with danger. Abigail's heart raced, pounding against her ribs. The glint of metal in his hand loomed larger, a wicked knife catching the dim light. Fear sliced through her, sharper than anything else present. "Let's make one thing clear," the man said, slowly revealing the blade. "You all owe a very hefty sum, and ignoring that debt will only escalate things. Your family will suffer." Her father's face fell, the bravado crumbling as if it were built of brittle glass. "No, please, we need time," he stammered. Marco stepped in front of Abigail, muscles tensed, ready to defend. "Leave us alone. You can't do this." The defiance in his voice rang hollow, echoing in the stony silence. Abigail wanted to scream. "What have you done?" Instead, she felt rooted to the floor, fear locking her in place. The man took a threatening step forward, and her stomach churned. Suddenly, the world around them shifted again. A loud crash shook the basement, shaking dust from the walls. All heads turned to the door as it flew open behind them, revealing a figure that made Abigail's heart stop. It was Lisbeth. Her older sister, whom Abigail thought had left for good, now stood there, panting and wide-eyed. "No, no! What are you doing?" Lisbeth shouted, eyes darting between the man and their parents. Abigail's confusion deepened, her breath caught in her throat. "Lisbeth?" The stranger's expression shifted instantly, surprise giving way to recognition. "You? I didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't mean to come back," Lisbeth said, stepping forward, hands raised in submission. "But I heard. You were involved in something dangerous. You need to leave, now." Panic mixed with clarity. This was real. The danger was here. The man sneered, his eyes narrowing. "And you think this changes anything? You're all in over your heads." "Just walk away," Lisbeth begged, voice trembling. "Please, just let them go." Abigail's heart raced wildly, shock flooding her senses. What was Lisbeth mixed up in? Why hadn't she told them? A lifetime of dreams, family togetherness? What had it all become? But the moment cracked wide open, ripping through their chaotic bubble. The man laughed, a sound that chilled the marrow in her bones. "Let them go? You just don't understand. This isn't about them anymore. She brokered deals. She brought you to the table." All the color drained from Lisbeth's face. "No, that's not!" "It's too late. You're caught in the web you spun. Let's see how hard you'll fight for your family." Abigail staggered, reeling from the truth like a blow to her gut. The sister she'd idealized was now entwined in the same world as her parents. You did this?" she whispered, hurt lacing her voice. "Stop it, all of you!" Marco shouted, but it felt like too much weight. Too many truths shattering around them. The man took a menacing step closer, his blade glimmering like a serpent in the shadows. A new depth of revelation pierced through Abigail, leaving her vulnerable and exposed. "You hurt us on purpose," she croaked, words barely emerging. Lisbeth shook her head desperately. "No, it's not what you think." But the doubt hung heavy in the air. As the tension built, all eyes flickered toward the basement door. The way out. An instinct kicked in. In an unexpected movement, Marco surged forward. "We need to run!" The man lunged, a whirlwind of motion. At that instant, a loud crash echoed from above. The ground shook beneath their feet, and the ceiling suddenly sagged precariously. Dust filled the air. To Abigail, it felt like the very fabric of her reality was unraveling. It was chaos, a dark storm closing in. And in that terrifying moment, Abigail thought. Would they all escape this nightmare, or was it already too late? The shocking truth loomed overhead like a sword, ready to drop and sever ties forever. As chaos erupted from Marco's sudden entrance, everything seemed to freeze. The man stepped closer, raising the knife, eyes narrowing in twisted delight. But just as tension peaked, another crash rattled the basement. This time, it was deafening. A beam fell from the ceiling, splintering wood and sending debris showering down. The sharp crack splintered the air as everyone shouted in a frenzy, trying to dodge the collapsing mess cascading around them. Abigail felt a hot wave of anger and fear wash over her. Her heart pounded in her chest. Would this be the end? "Get down!" Lisbeth shouted, pushing Abigail and Marco behind her, shielding them. For a split second, the world was a blur of movement. The man stumbling backward, the knife glinting erratically in the dim light before vanishing as he hit the floor, caught off guard by the chaos. "Let's move!" Marco shouted, yanking Abigail up. They sprinted toward the stairs, leaving dust and confusion in their wake. But just before they could reach the top, strong hands grasped them, an iron grip locking their wrists. It was the man, back on his feet, eyes blazing like coals. "Where do you think you're going?" He laughed, a cold, agonizing sound, with the blade still ominously clutched. He pulled Marco and Abigail closer, the fear spilling into her throat like fire. Suddenly, Lisbeth sprang into action, her fierce expression flipping the narrative upside down. "No." She lunged forward. "Let them go." In a heartbeat, she wrestled the man, and they both crashed to the floor, the knife skidding away and clattering under shelves of unused boxes. "This isn't how this ends," Lisbeth screamed, grappling with him, and Abigail felt her heart split. But in those crucial moments, the basement door burst open again, nearly ripping off its hinges. A figure stepped through, their uncle, Luis, an unexpected guardian angel. His face was set in a grim determination that sent a fresh pulse of hope through. "Abigail, I knew I would find you here," he bellowed, taking stock of the chaos, recognizing the situation instantly. "Get away from them." The man, caught off guard, released Lisbeth, but not without a bitter laugh. "Family ties, huh? You think that'll save them?" In that split second, something shifted. Abigail noticed how Lisbeth tensed, visibly shaken. "Luis, what are you doing?" she shouted. But it was too late. The man lunged at Luis, blade drawn, but in a blur, Luis caught his wrist, aiming to disarm the threat. A violent struggle broke out. Abigail's mind raced. This sort of fighting wasn't unfamiliar. Families were often drawn into darkness, but this felt different. A different kind of fight. A betrayal so deep it shook her world in unimaginable ways. Then, another realization struck her, one that twisted everything. "Wait! Stop!" she cried, the commotion erupting around her, drowning her out. "Luis, what's going on? Why are you really here?" A glimmer of understanding spread across everyone's faces, confusion swirling with urgency. Through gritted teeth, Luis managed, "You have to know. There's more. The debts don't just stop with your parents." Abigail's world cracked again, eyes widening. "What do you mean, more?" Something flickered in Luis's gaze. A hesitation? A shadow? "I didn't want you to see this side of our family, but your parents didn't gamble alone. They didn't choose it wisely. It's deeper than debts. It's something I've been trying to keep hidden." With that, words fell like ice. Suddenly everything felt heavy. The air thickened, stifling, every breath they took tinged with uncertainty. "Luis!" Lisbeth gasped, caught off guard by his revelation. Abigail's heart raced, scrambling through the emotions. What secrets were buried beneath the festive facade? "What else?" she whispered, choking on the truth that felt more like a noose tightening around them. The knife clattered again as Luis pushed back against the man. In that moment of chaos, time seemed to stretch and fracture. The room pulsed with secrets, betrayal, and fear. What other truths lay buried in the shadows? How deeply were they woven in your family fabric? Was this family worth saving? As the walls of the basement trembled with their histories, Abigail's heart sank. Would they even make it out? Or was the truth more dangerous than the weapon brandished before them? The air was thick with tension, suffocating in its weight. Abigail could hardly breathe as she stared at Luis, heart racing. "What more?" she whispered, desperation clawing at her throat. But before Luis could respond, a loud banging erupted from above. Panic surged. It felt like the walls were closing in. Her pulse quickened. "What now?" "It's nothing," the man growled, eyes darting around. But Abigail wasn't convinced. Suddenly, the basement light flickered, plunging them into darkness. Instinctively, Abigail stepped closer to Marco, seeking comfort in his presence. Shadows danced and swarmed like a swarm of wasps. "What's happening?" she panicked, her voice almost swallowed by the darkness. Luis shouted orders. "Everyone stay back!" The uncertainty grew palpable. Then, the sound of footsteps echoed ominously from the staircase above, a steady rhythm pounding down like a drum. With a sudden crash, the door flew open, and a figure tumbled down the stairs, hitting the ground with a thud. "Get down!" shouted Marco, adrenaline pumping through his veins. As the dust settled, Abigail squinted into the dim light. The figure slowly rose, revealing a familiar face, her estranged brother, Mateo. "I'm here! I'm finally here!" he gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. Abigail felt a surge of emotion. She hadn't seen him in years. "Mateo?" Her voice was soft, caught between confusion and joy. But that joy quickly twisted into concern, as she noticed the blood smeared on his forehead, drenching his hair. "What happened?" Lisbeth rushed to his side, fear etched across her features. "Are you okay?" "Not now. We need to go," Mateo shouted, breathless. His gaze landed on the man, eyes narrowing. "You shouldn't have involved the family." His voice was steady, but a tremor told another story. The man smirked, reading the tense atmosphere, gaining confidence. "Involved? Hardly. This was always about money." Before he could finish, Mateo lunged forward, and Abigail's heart dropped into her stomach. A wild scuffle ensued, fists flying, a whirlwind of chaos that made the basement tremble. "Stop it, all of you!" Abigail screamed, but her voice was drowned in the torrent of action. Mateo pinned the man against the wall, and for a moment it looked like he'd win. But then, "Mateo, look out!" Marco yelled. The man pivoted, getting the upper hand for just an instant. A swift jab, and the knife was in motion again, glinting dangerously close to their brother's throat. "No!" Lisbeth cried, lunging forward to intervene. But then a shot rang out, piercing the chaos like lightning. The sound cracked through the air, freezing everyone in place. Abigail's heart stopped. "What was that?" she whispered, eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, the man who had been terrorizing them dropped to the ground, lifeless. Abigail felt the world rush in. Dread washed over her. "What just happened?" she gasped, glancing around, confusion swirling with horror. From behind the staircase, a figure emerged, a woman they all recognized. Ay, Dios mío! What have you done? It was their mother, clutching a gun, shaking like a leaf. Mom? Abby breathed, shock engulfing her. You saved us? But as her mother stepped forward, bloody memories began to unravel. I never meant for you to get involved in this, she murmured, voice trembling. When I said we were fine, I was lying. All of us were. I did what I had to do. The fragments of the past shattered in a clatter, leaving only chaos. Questions ricocheted through Abigail's mind. Why didn't you tell us? Her voice cracked with betrayal. But her mother's gaze hardened. Because this family isn't what you think. It never was. Time felt suspended as the truth settled heavily on them like thick fog. What had they all become? And what other secrets lurked in the dim corners of their family history? As uncertainty washed over them, the basement light flickered, plunging them into shadows once more. Had they truly escaped one danger, only to unravel an even darker truth? Abigail's heart raced. Would they survive the storm waiting just beyond the door? Or had they walked into a nightmare far worse than they imagined? The echo of gunfire reverberated in Abigail's ears, a haunting reminder of just how fragile their reality had become. Her heart raced as her mother stood there, gun trembling in her hands, almost as unsteady as Abigail felt inside. What have you done? The words slipped out like a broken promise. But before anyone could respond, the tension in the room shifted again. The lifeless body of the man lay in a crumpled heap on the cold concrete floor, and the air filled with an unsettling silence, punctuated only by their ragged breathing. Mom? Marco's voice broke through the thick haze of shock. What did you do? How could you? Their mother's eyes were wild with confusion and regret. I had to protect you. You have no idea what I was facing. Her emotions surged, fighting against the fear and anger swirling around them. But no one could find the words. They all felt trapped in this moment. Then a heavy knock echoed through the basement, hard and demanding. It echoed like a last warning, reverberating through their bones. Abigail felt her heart still. Who is it? She whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. Feds. The shout came from beyond the door, cold and commanding. Open up! Panic surged like wildfire. What do we do? Abigail's voice cracked, fear amplifying her words. We need to get out of here. Her mother dropped the gun, eyes wide in horror. No, this can't be happening. Before they could react, Mateo took a step forward, his expression resolute. I'll handle it. You all get— No, Lisbeth shouted, grabbing Mateo's arm. You can't just walk out there. They'll arrest you. Mateo shook his head, unyielding. They'll listen to me. I know how to talk to them. Just trust me. The noise from outside grew louder, pounding on their composure. Feds, we know you're in there. Open the door. Mateo, please. Abigail felt her heart racing like a trapped bird. Don't do this. But he was already heading for the door. Stay back, he commanded. I'll protect you. Just keep quiet. The tension in the room hung thick, suffocating in its intensity. As Mateo reached for the doorknob, something deep within Abigail shifted. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Please, don't, she begged, desperation spilling over. He paused, turning back, the fear flickering in his eyes. I can't let them take you. I have to fix this. He opened the door just a crack, and there, in the bright light, stood two agents, their faces serious and resolute. Just as he opened the door wider, a figure pushed past him, a man in a sharp suit, eyes glinting with a kind of confidence that felt all too familiar. "Mateo," the man said, his voice calm but edged with authority. "You need to. Scan down." Abigail's breath caught. "Carlos?" The name tumbled from her lips, disbelief swimming in her gaze. The same Carlos who had brought danger into their lives before, a ghost from their past, now back to haunt them. "Looks like the party got a bit out of hand," Carlos remarked, eyes scanning the scene, mild amusement crossing his features. "Stop right there," one of the agents barked, pointing a gun at Mateo. "Hands up!" "Wait!" Mateo raised his hands, confusion clouding his eyes. "You don't understand. This is my family." "Family?" Carlos laughed, and the sound sent chills down Abigail's spine. "You think they're your family? Let me tell you a little secret." He stepped closer, and Abigail held her breath. Some bonds can be broken deeper than blood. "What are you talking about?" Lisbeth stepped forward, her voice trembling, resolve faltering. "Think about it," Carlos said. "Did you really believe you could hide everything forever? Secrets don't stay buried. And your family? Well, there's a reason they never wanted you involved. You're all tangled in a web you never saw." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Abigail felt her knees grow weak, her whole world starting to unravel before her. "What are you saying?" She looked at her mother. "What more could there be?" Carlos smiled, a wicked grin that sent a shiver down her spine. "Just how deep the family legacy goes. Were you really ever the family's real treasure? Or merely pawns in a game players choose?" The impact of his words struck like a punch to her gut. She staggered back, feeling the weight of betrayal. "No, this can't be true." And then the floor beneath her seemed to quake. The reality they had tried so hard to build shattered like glass. She could feel the room swirl, the edges of their world fraying as all of it fell apart. In that moment, with the shocking revelations raining down, Abigail felt the darkness close in around them. Will they weather this storm, or have the ties that bound them become nothing but chains? As confusion surged and relationships unraveled, she knew they were just stepping into a more dangerous game, and the fight was only beginning. The tension hung thick in the air, stifling Abigail's breath. She felt the weight of Carlos's words settle over her like a shroud. What did he mean by family ties and bonds? She glanced at her mother, who looked lost, her expression a jigsaw puzzle of fear and regret. "Truth doesn't stay buried," Carlos continued, a smug grin plastered across his face. "You're all in deeper than you know. Secrets don't just vanish." Abigail's heart raced. "What do you know?" she shot back, anger mixing with fear. But before Carlos could respond, a loud crack echoed through the basement. The floor beneath them shuddered violently, sending tremors through the concrete. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain. Abigail stumbled, grabbing onto Maiko for balance. "What's happening?" Lisbeth shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. And then it happened. The wall behind Carlos exploded into a shower of bricks and debris. A blinding light flooded the room, and Abigail instinctively shielded her eyes. Then came a series of loud pops. Gunfire. The sound echoed in a terrifying rhythm. "Get down," Mateo shouted, instinctively pushing everyone back. Abigail felt panic claw at her throat as shadows darted through the dust. A figure emerged, tall and imposing, silhouetted against the bright light. "You thought you could keep this hidden forever?" The voice was deep, smooth, full of unyielding authority. "Who is that?" she gasped, fear constricting her chest. The figure stepped forward, the light revealing a woman in a sharp suit, face familiar, yet unsettling. "I'm here to collect." "Yolanda?" It was her mother who whispered the name, eyes wide. The room fell silent. Each family member turned to look at their mother. Abigail felt ice wash over her. "You know her?" Lisbeth exclaimed, confusion etched across her features. "Yes." Her mother's voice shook. "She's someone from my past." "Your past?" Abigail echoed, horrified. "What do you mean?" Yolanda's eyes narrowed, taking in the collective shock with a gleam of satisfaction. "All those years of hiding, Maria. You thought you could escape? You owe me." A chill ran down Abigail's spine. "Oh, for what?" But Yolanda didn't answer. Instead, she pointed a finger at Carlos. "You're linked to this too. Your debt, it just got bigger." "What's going on?" Mateo asked, stepping protectively in front of Abigail. "What debt?" Yolanda's presence radiated a menacing aura. "Oh, didn't you hear? This family has secrets that would make your head spin." Her gaze zeroed in on Abigail, making her squirm. "And you, here, you're the key. The risk was always you and your mother." Abigail felt the ground beneath her feet shift. "Me? Why me?" Before anyone could answer, the basement erupted again. More figures broke through the dust. Agents in dark uniforms storming in, guns drawn. "Hands in the air," one of them shouted, the authority clear, eyes scanning the chaos. The scene turned into utter pandemonium. Abigail's heart raced, desperate to be free from this nightmare. Confusion and betrayal swirling around her. Suddenly, Yolanda smirked, stepping into the chaos with a cold confidence. "This is just the beginning. You're all tangled in a plot that's much bigger than you think." "What do you mean?" Marco shouted, stepping closer, fists clenched in anger. "What would you do for family?" she asked, her voice silky smooth, but with an undertone of lethal intent. "Would you sacrifice everything?" Abigail forced her voice to be stable, grounding herself in. "The chaos. Stop it! Just stop!" But Yolanda wasn't done. "You think you know who to trust, but lies run deeper. The blood you share binds you, but it can also poison you. Are you ready for the truth?" Abigail's heart thundered. Would she dare face it? What was hidden beneath the layers of her family's darkness? Before she could process it all, the world felt like it was tipping off its axis. In that moment, as family ties threatened to sever, all she could do was wonder. Had everything she believed been a lie? Abigail felt her heart race as Yolanda's voice thrummed in the air, thick with menace. Each word felt like a knife twisting deeper into her gut. She glanced around, searching for answers in her family's faces. Each wore a mask of confusion and fear. "Mom?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "What did you do? What debt?" Yolanda stepped closer, her eyes sparkling with a predatory light. "Your family thought they could play the game, but every card's been on the table for a long time. The real question is, how much are you willing to lose for loyalty?" Just then, the basement door burst open again, this time with a loud crash. Abigail jumped, adrenaline surging through her. A man stormed in, drenched in shadows, a hood pulled down over his face. "You all thought you could hide?" His voice was a rumble, powerful and low. The air crackled with tension. "Diego!" Yolanda gasped, recognition flashing in her eyes. The name hung heavy in the air, as if a bomb had dropped. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, eyes blazing with anger. "You didn't think I'd let you run off with the prize, did you?" Diego advanced, stepping into the light. His presence was electric, charged with a dark energy. I'm here to collect, not just the money, but what's mine. Stay back, Mateo shouted, stepping forward. You'll regret it if you come any closer. But Diego laughed, cold and menacing. Regret? This is a family reunion, isn't it? Things don't happen without consequences. The atmosphere thickened, suffocating. Abigail felt like she was drowning in confusion. What do you mean, yours? She demanded, forcing strength into her voice. Diego's eyes locked onto hers, and he smirked. Oh, they didn't tell you? Maria has debts that go longer than just money. It involves far more dangerous stakes, and you, my dear, might just be the key to unlocking it all. Abigail's heart stopped. Me? What do you want from me? Everything, he grinned, stepping closer. You're all part of this twisted tale, and it's time for you to face the music. Your mother isn't just hiding debts, she's hidden parts of herself. The truth is, Abigail, you're more of a player in this game than you think. Enough, their mother shouted, stepping in front of Abigail, protective but shaking. You have no right to involve them. But Diego waved her off, his attraction to chaos evident. You think you can shield them? They're already in the fire. The sound of sirens wailed outside, an urgent cry rising from within the chaos. It echoed through the basement. It was getting closer. Listen to me, Abigail shouted, urgency gripping her. What's happening? What do you mean by I'm part of this? Tell me. But just as Diego opened his mouth to speak, the ground beneath their feet shuddered again. The walls cracked, dust raining down like ash from a dying fire. Then, as if the universe wanted to match the escalating chaos, a wild explosion erupted from above. The ceiling caved in, wood splintering and metal screeching. Abigail covered her head, her heart racing as debris fell around them. Was this how it ended? Could they survive this? When the dust settled, silence enveloped them. She blinked through the haze, but as she looked around, she noticed Mateo was gone. Mateo? Panic surged in her chest, dread pooling like ice. Where's Mateo? Yolanda's face turned pale, realization dawning like a dark cloud gathering over them. What happened? Diego grinned, a cruel smirk touching his lips. Looks like the game just got more interesting. Find him. Abigail felt her heart pound in her chest, blood rushing in her ears. We can't leave him. But in that moment, all eyes fell on Yolanda. A secret was brewing, a truth waiting to burst. You all think you know everything, don't you? Yolanda hissed, her voice softening an octave. But there are lies that run deeper than you can imagine. And Mateo isn't who you think he is. Abigail's stomach dropped, the weight of the words pressing down. What do you mean? What do you know? Before she could process it, the room fell silent. Everything hung in the balance of Yolanda's revelation. What had she meant? As hearts raced and eyes darted between them, Abigail braced herself for a truth that would change everything. The question lingered in the air, heavy with suspense. What if everything they believed was a lie? Abigail felt the ground shift beneath her as Yolanda's confession weighed heavier than the dust falling from the ceiling. Mateo isn't who you think he is. The words hung in the air like a chilling fog, creeping into every corner of the room. What do you mean? Abigail's voice trembled, the panic rising. What are you hiding? Before anyone could breathe, the noise of sirens blared louder outside. Time felt like it was slipping away. Diego chuckled darkly, his confidence unshaken. You think this ends with your family? You have no idea about the ties that bind. Abigail glanced at her mother, seeing fear flicker in her eyes. Mom, please, tell me the truth. What's happening? But just as her mother opened her mouth to speak, the ground shook again. A beam came crashing down, barely missing Marco. They dove to the side as debris crashed around them. Dust filled the air, and panic set in. "We need to get out, now!" Marco shouted, his hands gripping Abigail's. "Not without Matteo!" she cried, her heart racing. They couldn't leave him behind. The thought made her chest tighten. "Stop!" Yolanda yelled, raising her hands. "We can't face them without knowing the whole truth. There's something bigger going on here. We need to stand together." "Stand together?" Diego scoffed, glancing at the agent. "You're all lunatics! Do you really think they'll let you just walk away? Let's focus on what really matters." To her surprise, their mother spoke with newfound resolve, her voice firm. "Matteo is in danger, and he has to know the truth. We can't let anyone control our fate." "Do you think it'll make a difference?" Yolanda challenged, stepping closer, urgency sharp in her tone. "Yes, Matteo deserves to know, and so do we," Abigail shouted, adrenaline surging through her. "We can't keep lying!" With a sudden strength, she pushed past the chaos and approached the door. "I'm going to find him." She flung the door open, revealing agents poised, ready. But before they could react, a familiar figure broke through the shadows. Matteo! He was battered, but alive. "Abigail, get inside!" Matteo shouted, urgency pressing his features. He wrestled past the agents, eyes darting. "They're coming for you all, now!" A surge of relief washed over Abigail. But the moment shattered again as Diego lunged. "You think this ends here? You're all part of this mess." Quickly, Yolanda and Matteo took charge, creating a barrier between the man and the rest of the family. "You don't get to decide our fate," Matteo declared, pushing against Diego with all his might. In that moment, something clicked for Abigail. She felt it, hope and defiance overflowing inside her. "Together!" she yelled, rallying her family. "We can't let fear win." Amid the chaos, the sirens crescendoed, and the room shimmered with uncertainty. Suddenly, the agents rushed in, weapons drawn. "Down! Hands up!" they shouted, commanding immediate attention. Yolanda stepped forward, gathering her strength. "We have nothing to hide," she announced, unwavering. "We are family, united against this threat." The air shimmered with raw energy. Abigail saw clarity in her mother's eyes, resolve blossoming into fierce determination. One by one, her family lined up alongside her, hands raised but ready to fight for each other. "I will not be a pawn," Abigail voiced, tears prickling her eyes. "Not anymore. We will face this together." "Let's see what you're really made of," Diego spat, his tone venomous. But something shifted. The agents, sensing the unity among the family, lowered their weapons. An unexpected understanding blossomed. "Enough!" one of them shouted. "Stand down!" "Tell your story!" Another agent, a woman with stern eyes, gestured at Yolanda. "We can listen, but only if you cooperate." Abigail felt the hope swell within her, fierce like a fire reigniting. "Let's do this." As the dust settled and the noise dimmed, they took a breath, an echo of life returning. Together, they had faced the storm, and Abigail knew it would never be easy. But she had her family, and that was enough to rebuild. As they stepped into the light together, the future loomed uncertain, yet brighter than before. A question lingered, floating in the air like a leaf caught in the wind. Could they truly forge a new path? Or would shadows from the past always threaten their fragile ties? Now, it's your turn. You must subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this wild journey. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think? And don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. This is the moment to show your support and keep these amazing stories coming.